is the theme to the show. This show is all about you. Not you, but you and your stories. Because everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Brought to you by JeffSeltzer.com.
Hello and welcome to Everybody Has a Story with Jeff Seltzer. I'm your host, Jeff Seltzer, and once again, this is my own personal midlife crisis. Some people leave their wives and get fancy cars. Me, I started a podcast, so this is what I do. Over the last 2 years or so, I've put out a number of episodes, and I'm really, really proud of the journey that we've taken so far. The number of listeners that I've gotten, people have reached out and talked about the new episodes and talked about this, I guess, the growth that I've had. What I will say, what always intrigues me is I get some data, just real top line data for the most part. But I do, as I've said in the past, get data on what countries listen to the show. In the past week, which is really, really insane, 5 new countries have started listening to the show. So I'd like to, first of all, welcome Bangladesh, China, Pakistan, Azerbaijan, I'm sure I probably butchered that one, and the Kingdom of Jordan. I'm always curious in terms of like, A, how people are finding the podcast, and B, like, what do they think of it? I do feel like probably most of the people who listen to or watch the podcast are probably people who are either currently or at one point in life connected to me. So the fact that I've hit 35 countries at this point is just mind-boggling to me. The fact that, like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know, like 30 years ago, I probably wouldn't have had connections outside of the US. And now, not that I have connections, but this many people know of me or know who I am or whatever. I don't know. It's just very weird. So in any event, welcome. If anybody from any of these countries, those 5 or any of the other previous 30 countries that I've streamed it, want to tell me about their story or tell me how they found the podcast, I'd love to hear it. If you can, go to Instagram, if that's available in your country, follow the podcast at Everybody Has a Story Pod. Send me a DM. Let me know. Tell me where you're from. Tell me a little bit how you found the podcast. Super, super curious. I'd love to get to know a little bit more about what's going on there. So once again, thank you all so much. And, love the fact that people are listening to and watching this content. It's really, really crazy. I did want to also mention that friend of the show, former guest, and probably future guest again, Jason Cherian, recently put out a book. So he was on about a year ago, I believe it was episode 37, talking about believing in yourself and trying something different. So he recently put out a book. It's available on Amazon, both in hardcover, maybe it's softcover, one or the other, as well as Kindle. The book's called Hack the Corporate Learning Curve, Strategic Personal Branding That Gets You Noticed and Promoted. So I recently bought it on Kindle, looking forward to read it soon. And the hardcover book or whatever, the physical book, I've been in contact with Justin trying to get an autographed copy to add to my collection. So once I read it, I'll probably talk about it a little bit. And then I'm hoping to get him on the show in a few weeks so we can talk about the book, talk about the journey about writing a book. We've had one previous author on the show, Katya Summers. I think it was about January of 2025. I'm really always curious in terms of like what the thought process is. Do you kind of like have an idea and work through it? Do you kind of brainstorm along the way? Do you have an ending and then work to the ending from the beginning? I have no idea. I mean, that's pretty much outside of my skill set, but maybe one day when I have a little more free time, I'll focus on writing a book, or maybe I could talk about how to podcast or how I got into this again. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Want to go through the rest of the plugs before we get to our awesome guest for this week. So first of all, we already mentioned the Instagram is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can find the show on YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. If you want to email the show, you can email the show directly at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer or all things the podcast, you can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. As always, we're available on all podcast platforms. Video is on Spotify and YouTube. Audio is on Spotify, YouTube, as well as Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Pandora. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find this podcast. If you can't find it there at a certain place, let me know, shoot me a message, and I'll do everything I can to put it up on that platform. I did want to mention before introducing the guest for this week, and it kind of ties into the earlier part also. My guest this week, it's weird to kind of say it, but out of context, if it sounds even weirder, she's known of me or known me longer than I've known her, and probably by almost a decade and a half or so. Funny background story. So the guest this week I'm about to introduce, she worked with my wife, I don't know, 20 years ago, give or take. And then probably about 9 years ago or so, when I switched jobs, I ended up working with her. It's a small industry that I work in. It's crazy the number of people that I've worked with, both myself and my wife. It's kind of, I always play the 6 degrees separation of Jeff Stelter game, or the hey, are you Beth Seltzer's husband game. Like both those things always generally check, because not only is today's guest somebody that worked with both myself and my wife, there are a number of other people over the years that have, which is weird. I mean, besides the people who worked with Beth and I together when we met back in 2000. So really small world, but I guess, you try to be nice to each other. Don't burn any bridges. And remember, you may run into somebody down the line and you don't want to make it weird or awkward. So definitely always try to be nice to everybody that you can. So with that said, I did want to introduce my guest for this week, friend of the show, friend of mine, Joanna Rodriguez. Joanna, how are you today?
Jeff, good. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. So before we get into any of the topics or conversation pieces, obviously, we worked together for a number of years at a current and let's say a previous company as well. Do you want to give a little background on who is Joanna Rodriguez?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say the fact that I did work with Beth, and when I found out that you were her husband, I was really annoyed. I'm like, how did I not make the connection that the two of you were related? Like, it just did not even. But by the way, I love your wife. Both of you are real salt of the earth people,
Thank
and
you.
you're right. Your reputation is your strongest equity here. But yeah, so I've had the privilege of working with you and your wife, and I'm a beyond middle-aged, unemployed, single white, no, not single white, white female, married, but empty nester. And I am in a very interesting transition of my life that, you and I spoke, it's not unique to me. It's not unique to anyone. I think everyone should have the opportunity to go through these transitions. But I think one is, I listened to the podcast last week with you and Elena, and it was so inspiring. The two of you were so genuine and just open and vulnerable. I was like, I want to go on because I think I can help people as well and just bring levity. And Jeff, honestly, like, I learned so much about you, and like, this is not like a side gig for you. This is actually your passion,
Yes.
which is really actually, so whether you write a book about it or not, it's pretty cool to hear how you landed here and how you keep with it.
I appreciate that. So first of all, Joanna, thanks for saying that. Really appreciate it. And again, really enjoyed the conversation with Elena from a few weeks ago as well. And Elena's onto some really great things too. So hopefully she can, utilize what she's doing, as well as hopefully utilize the content we created, put it out there, and sell what she's doing as well.
Yeah.
You had mentioned, obviously, currently unemployed. Before we get a little more into your story, I think I've talked a little bit about my story in the past too, that I've been laid off technically 3 times. First time was in college when I worked for a Sizzler restaurant. And back in summer of 1996, Sizzler corporate filed bankruptcy and closed like 2/3 of their stores. So I showed up, I got a call on a Monday morning saying, hey, come get your last paycheck. And here it is. But in terms of post-college and real corporate jobs, I've been let go twice. So I was let go in 2015, which I think I've shared the story before, but in case people haven't heard it before, I worked for a cereal company that makes Fruity Pebbles. I mean, like I'll say, it's Post cereal. We bought one of our competitors, and despite the fact that we bought our competitor, they closed the New Jersey office, laid us all off, and moved the entire company to Minnesota. So that was the first time I got let go, which was weird to me, but at the same time, I did find another job very quickly. I'll say unfortunately, because the job really wasn't a very good one. I'm not going to name drop that one. You can check my LinkedIn if you want to. But it did allow me the opportunity to double dip for a while and then eventually land where Joanna worked. The final time I was let go was also a weird one. That was back in 2019. And that one, actually, I had a bit of a gap between jobs. Really weird time in my life, because at that point I'd gone, 25 or 30 years straight, always employed. So for me, mentally, it was very, very tough to kind of just have the mindset of, even though I had severance coming and I had money coming in, just the fact that I woke up and I didn't necessarily have somewhere that I had to go. It took me a little while to kind of get used to that. Eventually I did. I got into routines, figured it out, and then I ended up landing a job after a number of months. But for me, it was it wasn't really the financial aspect. It's more of kind of the mental thing of like, I'm very much a creature of routine. And I
Yeah.
know, okay, I do this, I do that, I do that. And when a certain variable doesn't exist, my mind just kind of like races, like my anxiety kind of drives up and I'm like, okay, now what do I do? And will I eventually run out of money? How does that work? Whatever. So long story short, I would say, I know you're going through a lot of things. We'll talk about it in a second, but the best advice, if anybody's out there that's looking for a job and is kind of like, out and whatever else like that is create routines, create things. Like I would go to the gym on a daily basis. I had certain things that I would do, certain things around the house, obviously job seeking and interviewing as well. But for the most part, trying to make sure that I didn't become too much of a couch potato and just kind of focusing on some healthy things to do,
Part about it, Jeff, because this is my first time laid off from a job. I
Yes.
was lucky that every time I've been through a lot of mergers, I think 5 mergers and acquisitions, and I always landed somewhere. The places I landed in the organization, I was like, I don't know how we got here, but okay. But like just to pull back my story, right? It's funny because my son, who's 21, said to me, but Mom, what did you always want to do before you had kids? And I was like, I was so much, and I'm sure similar to you, I think it's a generational thing. I don't want to date myself, but I was so much in survival mode my whole life. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My mother was a single parent, and I didn't get anything paid for. I didn't get my car. I bought my own contact lenses. I bought my car. I've been working since I've been 13 years old in some type of capacity
right?
at 1,000,000 miles per hour, like literally in survival mode, right? Like we'd come home and the electricity wasn't paid. So complete different mentality to my kids and this generation coming up that are like, and handed, we were fortunate, like I wanted to give my kids more than I had. Okay. So I don't know what that means before I had kids. I wanted to survive, and then I wanted to have kids and raise a family and have a stable upbringing and give them the things that I didn't have. So to be in this spot where I was going 1,000,000 miles per hour to no routine and no kids at home, by the way, my kids are up and gone. And my husband and I are like, wait, we don't have to schedule dates, which, by the way, my husband lost his job in December. So we're both at home sharing one computer because, it's not, to your point, Jeff, though, it's not about the money. Because we were very smart, we're very fortunate, no one's going to starve tomorrow, but it's all those things that people don't tell you, right? Like that mental aerobics that you go and you're like, wait a second, I've done everything right my whole life, raised my kid, survived, put myself through college, and now I'm sitting here like, what's next?
Right.
So it's been really interesting.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. So I know your son asked a question, and maybe based on the context, it wasn't quite the right question, right? So his question was, when you were young growing up, what did you want to eventually do? Or what are the things you wanted to do? Maybe the better question is, like, once you got a little bit older and once financially you were more stable, and once you were, again, without dating you, let's say you were in your 30s, you were married, you had kids, you had money coming in, stuff like that. Was there something that you looked at and you said, gee, I'd love to do X? Not the drug X, but a variable X. Like, what is it that I want to do? Like, is there something that like you look at now and you're like, hey, maybe not as a kid, but like as an adult, once I got into a good spot, like there's something that I'd like to do, whether it be visit somewhere or do something locally, or is there something?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of soul searching, and I realized, Jeff,
Yes.
that I really, really liked what I was doing. I loved my job.
Okay.
I loved what I did. And by the way, I've traveled 17 different countries. I've driven up the coast. Like I've lived, like it's not like, but I really liked, and it was funny, Jeff, too, because one of my observations is I'm really rethinking retirement. And it's funny because when I met you, you were like, yep, X amount of days to retirement. And I'm like, but what are you going to do? Like so my mom is 82 years old, retired from Pfizer, and is still working.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, she just doesn't know how to relax. And it's sort of like when you go on vacation, right? And it takes you a day or two to kind of get into that vacation mode.
100%, yes.
She raised 5 kids by herself, no college degree. She literally would ride my 10-speed bike to Dunkin' Donuts in Caldwell and do the midnight shift, overnight shift to be home for us in the morning. So
Wow.
I get where she's coming from too, but I don't know, like I never thought like you would say that. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I would do if I were now this silent time, this opportunity that I have. I really cannot wait to actually retire in a place that I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about kids' health care. I got two kids in college, right? So I'm not there yet.
Of course.
But really, Jeff, like one of the biggest observations at this time is I now think I'm ready to retire right. Like I will do so many different things. I won't be bored. I'll have a purpose, right? Because my biggest fear is what's my purpose if I'm not raising kids and working?
Right. No, I totally hear you. And I'm not going to name drop anybody, but there are people that I work with that I've spoken with before who like are like they can never retire. And I would always have the conversation with them. I'd be like, is it a financial thing or is it a mental thing? And the
Yeah.
person's like, well, I can never afford to. I'm like, look, first of all, I know this person makes way more than I do, right? And this person's younger than I am as well. So I'm looking at this person and I'm like, okay, so saying you can never afford it is not really the reason, right? Because as long as you're saving, as long as you're putting money away, your 401k, stuff like that should not be a barrier. And again, everyone's got their own personal P&L and their own finances, but based on what I know about this person, that's not the issue. And then I would dig a little deeper and I would say, is that the case? Or is it you don't know what you would do? And eventually the person would be like, yeah, like if I retired, what would I do? Right. So for me, I always try to have a conversation. I get we're all coming from different places. I look at it and I'm like, I don't need somebody else to give me responsibilities to keep me busy. Right. Like I don't need someone to kind of give me like, busy work. So that way I feel I'm fulfilling in my life. I mean, and again, not to knock it for anybody. We're all wired differently, obviously. But for me, like I've always had enough. I've never had trouble finding hobbies or finding things to do. Like for me, I'm 48 years old, just turned 48 and a half a few weeks ago. And like I still video game. I still go to the movies. I still go to the gym. I still go to Disney as often as I can. So these are things that I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, like I wish I had more time to do that kind of stuff. If I were to retire, like I could go, and I've told people the plan before to retire in the Orlando area. So if I could spend a couple of days a week walking around Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, maybe Busch Gardens, stuff like that, go to the movies, go to the gym, do some volunteering. I mean, at that point, like I plan to be financially stable enough that I don't need the money, but I'd like to give back to society, help out wherever I can, find a charity that I believe in, things like that. And fortunately for myself, like my wife is of the same headspace as well. So between the two of us, we can do things together, which I absolutely love too. I mean, the fact that we can kind of, in the afternoon, take a walk around the international area of Epcot, like things like that, just kind of like really just make me happy thinking through like, okay, this could be it. Go around, have a drink, or just walk around, get our steps in, whatever it is. But like for me, and even the podcast, right? Like the fact that like I created a hobby and created a platform here. Like right now, it's everybody has a story. I've had some really random brainstorms of, do I start a new podcast in retirement? Do I create like a vlog of sorts? Like there were things that I can do, I think, from a creative perspective that I don't think I'd personally.
Ideas for me. I have some ideas for you. We can talk about that, but I have some.
Absolutely. I'm always open for ideas. So whatever you want to share now or later, I'm totally down for it.
Yeah, well, one is I think like you definitely. Well, my husband just turned on light. It's good. One is you definitely like you're missing. Like you need to do a vlog or podcast about Disney.
Yes.
Like 100%. Like you are the guru, and I'm sure you thought of this, but like it is so expensive to go to Disney for a family of four. Like I know you, and I remember I stopped you in the hallway and I was like, give me some tips and tricks. Like that's a must have. Like you got to do something like that to help people.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, I think, I
even like a once a month thing here.
No,
like if you did a one, yeah.
No, I'm with you. And I've given lots of people advice one-on-one, but I totally agree. I mean, I think between myself and my wife, we've had a lot of experiences, a lot of different experiences in Disney, Universal that we definitely could help a lot of people out with that. So definitely point taken and definitely something I've thought about.
And the second thing is forget the book. Everyone's writing. I mean, you could write a book, but I think you're a really good teacher. Like I think adjunct professor, or again, if you use this platform, like Jeff, you're also the go-to on like savings policies. Like literally I had somebody call me and was like, oh, I know who'll know this answer. We got to call Jeff Seltzer. And I was like, everyone, like you're the go-to, but it's important because people don't pay attention to this stuff. So I don't know, like there's messages like that are being given to you by the universe, and you got to hear them, right?
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, I think Elena a few weeks ago mentioned the same thing too. That like For me, I tend to at work be almost like the personal like HR rep of my group, because there were so many things. And again, I'm not talking about my personal company. Let's talk about that I
Yeah.
work at, but like in general, jobs that I've had, like I tend to spend a lot more time focusing on like what's the 401k match, like what's this look like, what's that look like, that the average person doesn't necessarily pay attention to. So I do, to your point, I do help out with that. I do, and I have in the past given like personal financial seminars. I'm not a CPA, I always have to say that, but I do have a number of models and things that I've put together to kind of like help work towards retirement. So I've shared that with a number of people that I think in retirement I probably could do something like that. To add to that too, one other podcast that I've thought about that I could do in retirement is just about the wackiness of corporate America, right? So at this point, I'm sure you've seen a lot of things. Like I've been in corporate America now for 26 years. I've seen a lot of, let's say, weird things, and especially just how much corporate America has evolved over the last 26 years, both in the good ways and bad ways. Lots of different characters that I've worked with or worked for over the years. Obviously, that's not something I would ever do before retiring, because I don't want to, burn any bridges or get myself into trouble.
It's like a reboot of The Office. Like The Office was a small office, but
Yes.
it's almost like you need like corporate office. Like I totally agree with you. That would be hysterical. The other thing, like I was completely intrigued by your and Elena's conversation on music. And I
Yes.
gotta say, like one is, I don't know if you posted up your playlist. You and Elena have to post up playlists. I was like, totally did not expect those playlists from you. Like the music you were, I was like, wait, what? Like it was totally not, of course, I didn't think you were into WWE either, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But that was really, I think music tells a lot about a person. And I really, really love that little snippet of your guys' interview.
Yeah, great call out. So first of all, cheap plug, I'll say on jeffseltzer.com, I do have a few of my playlists posted. I should post a few more, which I'll do. I think now that you mentioned that, probably by the time this episode posts, I'll post a bunch more just for people's reference and such like that. But as I mentioned to, I think Elena, or I mentioned to somebody. I use playlists as a form of therapy. Like honestly, I create about 30 or 40 playlists a year, and depending upon my mood, I listen to pretty much every kind of music except for country for various reasons. I listen to like rap, rock, lots of pop stuff, which stuff, for like a 48-year-old guy, people look at me and say, you're really into, Sabrina Carpenter, or you're into like this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, I love it. I mean, not just because I have kids. I mean, I love taking them to those concerts, but for me, I just love, I love bops. Like if there's a song that kind of like, it hits, it definitely hits. I have no real reason to be embarrassed by it. It just kind of, it's what makes me happy,
You were like, I play it nonstop on repeat.
Yes.
Like I'm like that right now. Like if I hear something new, or like there's a couple of songs that are on repeat for me right now, like and I'm like I just play them out until you get sick of them. But I love that portion of it. But
absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to say is, before we run out of time, I know we still have a lot of time, but one of the observations of my unemployment has been, and this kind of gets into why I want to be here today too, is what really surprised me. Like I have a running list, is the people aspect of things, right? Like good and bad, right? So I've worked alongside of a lot of people for over 20 years. And some of them didn't say a peep to me. Not a goodbye, nothing, right? And then there were these other people, which I'm not going to take it personal, right? Because everyone's got stuff going on. But then there were these other people that came out of the woodwork, Jeff, that I was like, holy SHIT. I was like, where did these people come from? Like, it's been such a blessing. One is you, like people check in on me. Elena, Elena gave me this book, All the Cool Girls Get Fired. Not that we got fired, but just these relationships that have come out, and the people that I was like, wow, I didn't even expect that. Or one of my first bosses, Ginger Colorasi, actually, her husband plays acoustic around here, so I'll give them a plug. But she has been like my fairy godmother, connecting me to people. Anu Bliss at Emerson, like, been amazing connecting me with people. And just the way people have shown up has been like so refreshing. Like, I'm like, oh my God, there is a humanity out there still, right? And it just, right, the humility of going through this, like, it takes a shot to your self-esteem. And like, it's been the most surprising thing, like notes from people, like so touching. And I'm like, oh my God, like, and it really brought me to this place of like, I really want to continue to pass that on and like show up for people, whether it's like people that are reporting to me or younger than me, like showing up for people is something that I think we just really need to do more of as a society.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna say, I mean, I think you're spot on. Obviously, that's your experience, so I would never judge what you've experienced here. But what I will
yeah,
say is, in my experiences, it's 100% the same. So I've worked for a number of companies post college, and my earlier years when I would leave a job, I would oftentimes try to reach out or email or keep in touch with some previous coworkers, people who like I would go to lunch with and hang out with when I worked, and I very quickly would realize like who was just kind of there for lip service while you're working, and who are like truly the legit like good people, right? The people that
people,
like
yeah,
want to keep in touch. Because there are people that I thought I was super close with from, I'm not going to say where, but other companies. And as soon
yeah,
as I was gone, I would email and say, hey, just checking in. How's everything going? And like either I get no response or I'd get like a real quick, like, fine. And that was pretty much it. And I
yeah,
recognized, okay, they don't want to talk. To your point, also, I will say, like, specifically when I got laid off the last time, that was the most eye opening to me, totally. In terms of there were some people, as you had said, that like, as soon as I was gone, like it was radio silence. I heard nothing from them, which again made it a little even more awkward when I ended up back at the same company 7 months later. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, when I was out of a job and I reached out to you to say hi, you didn't even respond, and now we're working together again. Like,
Jeff,
what is
I hope
going
I
on?
wasn't one of those
No,
people.
no, no,
Was I
no,
one of those people?
no, you weren't one of those people. No, you've always been
Thank
great to me.
God.
No, it's not you. And then there were other people who like would proactively reach out to me. There's one person who I'll shout out to, Lisa Risco. Like at that company, like I didn't work with her that much, but
Yeah.
like I think, and this is why it's memorable to me. My last day at that company for that stint when I got let go, I think was her first day back from maternity. And so like as I was, I was saying I was saying goodbye to somebody, and she ran up to me and then said goodbye, gave me a big hug. So and was like, hey, however I can help you, let me know. Like for me, like that completely was touching because like in the year and a half or 2 years I was there at that point, like we didn't work together that much, but the fact that like she went out of her way to kind of like say goodbye and offer to help me,
Yeah.
I thought was amazing.
If she was the last person when I was told my job was eliminated, I walked back
Yeah,
to my desk, she came over and I was like, Lisa, I can't talk to you. I'll start crying.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, she's a good egg.
she was fantastic. But again, I
Yeah,
think again, I mean, everybody has a different story and a different path and different journey.
yeah,
And maybe it's just because it's the empath in me or I'm a people pleaser. But like for the most part, like when I hear someone's leaving that I've, at least acquaintances with or whatever, for whatever
yeah,
reason, like if somebody leaves on their own, I always congratulate them. Right. Like in corporate America,
yeah,
people always tend to get kind of pissed when they're like, oh, so and so quit, so and so gave notice. My mind's always like, well, they weren't happy here. They probably found a better opportunity. So
yeah,
I'm very happy for them. Like I always try to, as we used to say, keep it human. I try to look at the personal aspect first and say, okay, maybe they'll find a better place. They'll find happiness. And at the same time, we can replace that person with someone maybe who wants to be here or whatever it is,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but like literally, Jeff, like I feel so corny for saying this, but like
Yeah.
I feel so privileged to go through this because I had no context of this,
Yes.
right? Like, and now I can even the interview process, like you and
Yes.
I were talking about, since the end of January, I've been on literally, I think 18 interviews. Um, so humbling.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many interviews I held for all of the companies and just like how rude I now realize I was. Not putting my camera on, showing up late, not preparing, like not on purpose, because
Sure.
you're like, you can't even, but like, I have such a different perspective on interviewing now. Like, I literally would spend all day prepping for my interview now, and like people would be late or not show up or really not engaged. And I'm like, this is kind of rude. Like, do they know how this is tearing me up? Right? Like,
Y-
so I'm like really grateful for this experience, as weird as that might sound. But the other thing I want to tell you is like this lie I've been telling myself for years that if only I had time to work out, I'd be in perfect shape is a complete lie. I have nothing but hours all day to work out. And believe me, you go through this whole mental thing, like you said, okay, what are we doing about money? Like, needs versus wants. Let's put a hold on everything.
Of
Let's,
course.
move. Like, so you go through this money thing. What's COVID, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let me cancel this gym. I don't need this gym. I'm home. I have all this COVID equipment. It's getting nice out. I'm going to work out 3 times a day. Listen, I've been working out for 3 months, like hours a day, and I can tell you I don't have a perfect body. So that lie is just a lie I told myself.
But with that said, you are trying. You're doing things, right? Like I often joke with people that like so again, I'm 48 years old. If I worked out this much and if I ate this well when I was like 20, I would have been jacked. Like, getting older is definitely tougher. And, as my wife always tells me, once you hit 40, like just keeping muscle on is tough because your body just kind of like, shreds it or whatever. So like I look at it, I try to be as self-aware and realistic as possible in that, like, I recognize what I can or can't do. I understand limitations. I'm not going to hurt myself trying to get into ridiculous shape. All I can do is try to take care of myself, do the best that I can, and make the most of the time that I have here. What I was going to say to your point from before. So for me, I guess probably because, again, we've probably got slightly different journeys. Like I went through so many different companies in my early career, and I recognize like how the interview process goes. I've always had the mindset of like when I'm interviewing somebody, like I always try to get on early. I always try to like talk nicely ahead of time. To your point, I recognize that like, while for me it's just like a half hour, an hour interviewing them, they've probably been panicking about this for a week or two, right? From the point that HR said, hey, you're scheduled for next Tuesday at 3:00. Like, and again, I don't know, everyone thinks that way. This is the way that I think. Like for me, it's the only thing in my mind at that point. It's like, okay, I've got to get ready. I've got to be set, whatever else like that. So even if they're an awful interview or they're not ready for it or whatever else like that, I just think through like, hey, when I was in that seat, just how challenging it was. And I try to make it as comfortable as possible, much like on this podcast. Like I try to make sure that it's a comfortable experience. I give them the opportunity to talk through their experiences, their stories, whatever they have. And I recognize that, like, I'm only investing an hour into it, but they've probably invested weeks into it, researching the company and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly like, so I've had, after tomorrow, I've had 6 interviews this week. And
That's
literally,
exhausting.
like, it is exhausting and it puts everything else on hold, right?
Yes.
So I'm researching the company and then I'm like, okay, this person's in marketing. What might they ask? Well, but here's the other thing I'll say is that another blessing that I've discovered of being unemployed is I have learned so much more in the last 3 months. Now, I don't know if it's technology, just the speed of technology, than I have in the last 10 years of my career.
Sure.
Because, right? Like you'll go through trainings, you'll take an AI class, yada, 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 but you're so focused on like the work that's piling up and all the things you have to do that I did, it wasn't, I checked the box, move on. I have become like, I think like I know every AI tool, Claude, ChatGPT, they're all my friends. They like literally today I was like, help me prepare for this. And they're like, well, you've already had several interviews with this company, so they should know you by now. Right. Yeah. So like it's like all this professional and AI and technology stuff that I've learned. I even attended a digital workshop that like I've learned so much that like really investing in yourself, if you're in a career or busy, is really, really important. Like you have got to make sure you are a priority, whether you're working or not. But like even the resumes, like now you have to have a resume for every job posting, right? It's just to get through the AI bots. Like it's a wild, crazy new world. But again, like feel completely blessed that I've had this opportunity right now to do all this, right? Like I wouldn't have had this opportunity before.
Let me ask you this question, and this isn't going to come out the way that I wanted to, but it's work with me. So, you're about as experienced as I am, give or take a few years, whatever else like that. And this is your first time unemployed, first time between jobs. You've had 3 months now. I've been let go, a few times, as I said before, and I've experienced this multiple times. It sounds like you're learning, you're trying to develop, you're trying to make the most of this time, to progress yourself and to kind of make yourself better during this time, try to find something else. If you had to get let go once in your career, do you wish this happened years ago, or do you think this is the right time for you in your life?
So funny you said that. I'm like, why couldn't this have happened when my kids were younger and I had time to be a school mom? Or like I said before, we're just sitting here literally watching every episode of Atlanta Housewives because we never watched it. And we heard Michael Rappaport said it was the best one. So we're like, well, good news is I love my husband. We're having fun, but like it would have been like everything I always said about my job. I loved it, but the balance was off. Like even the hybrid work model, like, why couldn't, like, most companies I'm interviewing with are like, oh, we're only in 3 days a week. Monday and Friday, we work from home. That would have been great as a young mom, right?
Right.
Like, because I was hell bent on, I have to have a family dinner every night. I wanted to create, like I said before, an atmosphere and a life that I didn't have. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. So it's really interesting, but I don't know, like, I guess it's a natural pause for me at this age in my life because I don't know if I could have dealt with it then either. Like I've in 3 months I've worked out, I've redecorated a room, every freaking drawer and closet in my house is organized. Like I've threw away clothes. We're volunteering twice a week at the food bank. Like I
Awesome.
have ADD. Like
Yeah.
I can't sit still. Mentally, to your point, like I have to keep a routine, right, for myself. But um, I don't know. I mean, it's really when we talk about transitions, this really is the transition into my next chapter of my life. So
Nice.
it feels like a natural break almost, right? Like, and that break is really about who am I today? Yes, I'm a mom. Yes, I'm a worker, but what do I really want the back half of my life to look like?
Right.
And I really want it to be purpose driven. I really do. Like, I love to work. I want to work. I will. The world is so abundant, corny as it sounds, but like, I will never starve, right? I'm so fortunate, right? And I have a family and a network of people here, but like, but what do I want, right? Like, what to my son's point, like, what do you want to do? Like, now I'm at a point where I'm still young, I'm still vibrant, we're living a lot longer, right? I now see a path to retirement. Thank you, Jeff Seltzer.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, again, I think for me, I think the problem with me a lot of times is I try to find the positive in everything.
Me too.
The challenge with that being that like oftentimes people around me don't, and I come across as a little too excited about a situation that I probably shouldn't be. I think part of it is like for me, if I start to feel a little negative or I'm in a negative situation, I start to spiral, and I don't like that feeling. So for me, I think part of it is like, hey, how do I, uplift myself and those around me, but also be like I'm also very solution driven, probably almost too much. That I do often have trouble with when someone's trying to vent to me. Like I'm more in problem solving mode versus sponge and listening mode.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's something I do have to work on. At
What do
sometimes
your
just
kids think of that?
it's a great question. They do oftentimes will try to call me on things like, "How's that a good thing, Dad?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not really a good thing, but I'm trying to like make the most of it," kind of a deal. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's
Well,
probably. I'm sure it's yeah,
I have the same problem, Jeff, and
yeah,
it's because we genuinely care about people. Like
right.
you try to solve because you want to help people, and look, you're an energy giver, not an energy sucker. Like there's people that are
No
just energy.
doubt.
But it's funny because I also have been doing a ton of reading. And I was just reading a book about, right, because I'm raising boys, you're raising girls. Like I don't know anything about it, like, and I don't want to be their friend, right? It's complicated, right? But I recently read something where they were like, ask your kids if they want feedback before you just go in and solve. So I really have made a conscious effort. Like my son will call from college, blah, 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 tell me all, because he has ADD too. Tell me all these things. And I'm like, do you want me to respond and give you suggestions, or do you just want me to listen?
Right.
And it's really worked, right? Like, and it's, I think, helping our relationship a little bit because I'm like you, right? We genuinely care about people, which made this whole like everyone's like, oh, you got to use your network. Call like Ginger's like JoJo, you got to call everyone you knew and ask them about jobs. And I'm like, it feels so disingenuous. I haven't talked to this person in 20 years. I'm just going to call them up and be like, so do you have a job? You know anything? Like it
Right.
just felt like, and she's like, people that want to help and know you will take the call.
Right.
And if they don't, they don't. And by the way, if somebody called you and said, can you help? You would drop everything like you to help them.
Right.
Maybe not everything I do,
Yeah.
but
No.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no doubt. I mean, I've had many people that I haven't talked to in years that'll reach out, and immediately I'll say, or even people. Here's an example again, like Lisa Risco, as I mentioned earlier. She posted on LinkedIn recently that her niece is looking for a job. She says it's not about like she's great, blah 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 blah. She's looking for a job of some kind or whatever. I just reposted immediately. I was like, I don't know this person. However, Lisa, vouched for her and said she's good. So let's do it. Like, get anybody in my network help her out. Like, I think LinkedIn should be used more for that and less about like celebrating these random nonsensical things which don't really exist. I mean, I often see the meme of, how people come across on Facebook versus Instagram versus TikTok versus LinkedIn. And I'd say most things that are posted on LinkedIn, I just either ignore or put an X next to, because I'm like, I don't really care. It doesn't really impact me. And I don't necessarily think that it's real. So when somebody posts something like, hey, I'm recently unemployed, can somebody help me? If it's somebody I barely know, I will do whatever I can to help them out if I can. And for the most part, most people that reach out that I'm at least connected to, like, I'll be like, yeah, how can I help you? Who can I put you in touch with? I have 2,000 connections on LinkedIn. If there's somebody at a company that you want to get in touch with or talk to, let me know. I'll start the intro kind of a deal,
Yeah, I really hate social media so much, and I can't wait for the day that I don't have to be on any of it. I just am on all of them but to stalk my kids. And
Smart.
LinkedIn, obviously, for professional reasons, but there's definitely a podcast in there on social media and the younger generation, because I don't know the future of this. The other thing is you got to have Lisa on at some point and talk about her journey with Charlie, because she is an amazing champion for that little girl. She would be a great guest. And I know Elena's like, oh, tell Jeff that I want to come back on with you and we could do another podcast. I'm like, but what are we going to talk about? She's like, I don't know, but let's plug it.
So is Charlie...
Poor Jeff is going to be sick of us.
No, never get sick of you. Is Charlie Lisa's youngest child?
No, second youngest. She had Avery. Actually, I think it was probably Charlie that she came back to.
That's what I'm trying to think. That was January of 19, so that would make her 7 at this point. Is that right? Yes, that would be the one that she came back from at that point, right?
Yeah, it's a really horrible story what happened to Charlie. And Lisa is such an amazing mom, and the support system they have around Charlie and everything she's doing. But it's a lifetime journey for Lisa, right? And you would never know it if you meet her.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I would never want to share someone's story that doesn't want to. So I would obviously.
Well, she wrote about it, so she's not shy about her story. And
understood. I totally get it. I mean, and to be perfectly honest, I think it was about 1.5 years ago. I asked Lisa if she wanted to be on the podcast. She said maybe at some point, whatever else like that. And about 1 year later, she was like, why have I never been on your podcast? Why won't you invite me? And I'm like, I invited you like 1 year ago. She's like, oh, yeah, you did. You're right. So, I mean, if Lisa's listening, or I'll probably mention it to her at work at some point soon, like, hey, the invite's still there. I'd love to talk to Lisa, both professionally and personally. She has a lot of great things that I'm sure she'd love to share or talk about. I would just love to have a conversation. So we'll see what happens.
Jeff, we got to get the band together. You got to get a studio, and we'll be live, and we can play some music. We can bring Elena in.
So we can't play music because I'll get tossed off because the licensing and whatever else like that. I mean, it's not a monetized podcast, but at the same time, I think if I played a real song, Spotify would probably kick me off. So
we can sing. Well, no, we don't want to sing. I
don't know if anybody wants to hear me sing, but I'm not sure.
We'll chase all your listeners off. There's Bangladesh and where are your new listeners?
And Pakistan.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And the Kingdom of Jordan too. So
amazing.
What I did want to mention, since we're running a little bit late in time, you mentioned earlier that you've been to 17 countries.
Yes.
What I've mentioned in earlier podcasts is I've had at least one listener on every continent except for Antarctica. Any chance with this free time of yours, you want to go to Antarctica and listen to a few episodes so I can claim world domination from a podcast perspective?
Yeah, I don't know if Antarctica's in my future, Jeff.
I have to ask. I mean,
is there any other countries that Portugal maybe?
There are other countries, but the thing is, that's the last continent I need. I've gotten every other continent.
Okay.
But as I've said before, I'm not sure if the infrastructure is there. I don't know if they have Wi-Fi or data in Antarctica, but I need to figure out a way to get somebody up there to stream a couple episodes for a couple of minutes so I can, again, make
Sounds like a job for Daniel Ireland. I'm sure he'll be up for that.
I think so. Him and I talked about going to Alaska at one point for a wrestling show, but I'm not sure geographically how far from Antarctica Alaska is. I mean, in theory, it feels like
you couldn't have got your podcast up in space, right? Nutella was floating around up there. You could have had everyone's got a story playing.
I guess.
Reach for the stars, my friend.
I'll see what I can do. Definitely a great goal to have. So appreciate the input. So Joanna, we are, again, as I said, running late in time. Is there anything else you want to talk about or anything you want to plug, or are you good for the day?
I'm good for the day. It's been a pleasure. I really feel honored to be with you, and hopefully somebody listening is grabbing some tidbits from our chat.
Sounds good. Well, Joanna, as always, I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate you being on the podcast. If anybody out there is looking for an amazing person that works in corporate America, reach out to Joanna Rodriguez. You can probably find her on
You don't have
LinkedIn.
like an ending question?
For me, for you, or you for me?
No, like most podcast hosts will say, like, we'll have like, have you listened to like On Purpose with Jay Shetty or Gary Braca? Like they always have an end question for their guests. You got to come up with an end question.
I have not.
Like,
I mean,
what's your favorite song you're streaming? Or, right, like, I don't know. One of my interviews I had, they had rapid fire questions, right? It was crazy, Jeff. It was like, are you PowerPoint or Excel? I was like, oh my God, both.
So, I mean, it's
Are
funny.
you-
It's funny you mention that. Like Marcus Brandon, friend of the show, who will be on probably pretty soon again. He's mentioned that to me multiple times. I don't know. Like, I've had him on multiple times, and every time he's like, we should have it at the end. But every episode I do with him goes like an hour or so. So I'm like, we don't have any more time. I should try to figure out some
One
kind
sign
of,
off question, like Daniel, and then I'll stop talking.
Yeah, of course.
Daniel, he always has that one interview question, right? Like you need to have that one question.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's all I'm going to say.
That's fair.
You're amazing. Your podcast is amazing.
Thank you.
Keep following your passion. Keep being who you are. I really am honored to know you, and tell Beth I said hello.
Of course.
Hello, Beth. Hopefully she's listening to us.
She usually doesn't, but I will pass on the word in case she doesn't. Maybe knowing that it's you, she will, but I'll let you know. With that said, thank you all for listening. As always, really appreciate it. As always, follow the show on Instagram at Everybody Has a Story Pod. If you want to be a guest or have something you want to talk about, DM me over there. The show is on YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can email the show at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com for all things Jeff Seltzer. You can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. I'll probably put up some new music playlists there in the near future, per the conversation from earlier. As always, we are available on all podcast platforms. So we are video on YouTube and Spotify. We are audio on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you could probably find us. Also, a reminder, if you go to everybodyhasastorypod.com, you can probably find some really cool and fun content as well. With that said, have a great, great day, great week. Listen to some of the older episodes if you haven't, and we'll talk soon. Take care, everyone.
Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer.